Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my series on the board game Successors, 4th edition, to the strongest variant. This is a somewhat streamlined version of the game, and you can find the rules on BoardGameGeek.com. This section, or this session, is going to look at movement, naval movement, battles, and sieges. So during your turn, you get to activate your generals. If you play a Taiki card, you can also give your generals MPs or movement points. And let's say you have 4 movement points. You have to move between these different parts of the map. Uh, Anything that's a solid kind of gray line, it takes 1 movement point to move between those spots. So if Perdiccas wanted to move from this place to that place, that would be 1. It takes 2 to go across anything with a squiggly brown line or a dashed brown line. So for instance, Crateros would take 2 to get to that transit point, and then would take a third one to get to that city right there. And so you can use as many movement points as you need to. Sieging, you only siege large cities, the square ones, or strongholds, the hexagon spaces, or any province that has an independent army icon, which is the gray helmet token. They require 1 siege point, strongholds require 2 siege points, and large cities require 3 siege points. But I'll get to sieges later. So what about moving over the water? So that's kind of different. You can move over the water whether or not you control fleets. The fleets are down here. You control a fleet if you control one of these provinces that has a galley icon right next to it. So if you control Aegyptus, you go down here and you find the Aegyptus fleet, and you take it and you put it, beside you on the map. Let's just say that this person had a large fleet. The fleets can be either large or small. So let's say we have a large fleet from Aegyptus and a small fleet from Phoeniki. And then let's say that the blue player actually controls Aegyptus. We'll give that to him. Let's say the blue player also had a small fleet from Kypros or Cyprus. And the green player also had a large fleet from Athens or Athenae. So we'll just assume that. And let's say blue, Crateros, is trying to move across the water. He wants to move from there to there. It doesn't matter where the fleets are. The fleets don't go onto the board. They are kept over here in your kind of player area holding box. And anyone can intercept you. So you have to declare, hey, I'm moving this guy, Crateros, from this place, I think that's Tarsos, to this place, Arados. And any other player can say that they're trying to intercept your naval movement. The place you leave from is called the embarkation point. The place you land at is called the debarkation or disembarkation point. And you don't have to have fleets to do that, but if you don't have a fleet and someone else does, they're going to be able to block you. If you both have fleets, there's going to be a naval battle. And basically, if you lose the naval battle, your troops are going to have to take attrition, meaning one of them might die, and they have to go back to wherever they started, the embarkation point. So it only takes 1 movement point to go across the water, but again, and you can go across multiple sea spaces if you want to. Like I could go from Arados and then keep going on to Sidon if I wanted to. So let's say I wanted to go to Sidon from there. That's perfectly fine as long as you have enough movement points. And so when you do make that movement, people can declare that they're going to intercept you, and that starts a naval battle. And so then you declare which of your fleets you're going to use for that naval battle. So in this case, I'm just going to say green and blue are going to use both of their, they're going to use all of their fleets. So you take your fleets and you kind of put them out here so you can compare the numbers on them. This is called the fleet strength. So this, you add up these numbers. This would be a fleet strength of 3 for the blue team and a fleet strength of 4 for the green team. Then people have a chance to play uh, any cards, any surprise cards that help you at sea, and there's a few of them, but we'll just skip that and assume nobody has those cards. Then you roll a die. You roll a six-sided die. Both players do. Um, and you add that number to your fleet strength. So let's grab a couple of dice here. Uh, Actually, it looks like, okay, it's got 1 dice, 2 dice. Okay, pick it up and shake it and roll it. That's a 4, and that's a 1. Okay, so 4 plus 3 is 7. 1 plus 4 is 5. So blue had a higher fleet strength, or they won the battle because their total fleet strength plus die roll is higher. So what happens then is that the interceptors' fleets are now dispersed. So both of these are going to go to the dispersed box up here, and uh, when you place something in the dispersed box, you're also going to place one of your political control markers to indicate that those are yours. Now you will get these back later or at the end of the turn, or the beginning of next turn. So, but you can't use them anymore. They've been dispersed. They're resting, and so then Krateros can now move freely. But there you could have multiple people trying to intercept him. So if there's another player who wants to intercept him, then you would have another naval battle. So you'd have two naval battles in a row. Um, if both battle scores are the same, so let's just kind of pretend that the battle had been equal down here. In that case, it's considered a draw. But the person gets to continue moving. It's assumed that they slipped away from the interceptor and got around him, but there was no real battle, so nobody loses anything. Uh, if the moving player is defeated, so let's say that the green player, the interceptor, had won the battle, then you would disperse all of the moving players' fleets. So in this case, these guys would be dispersed. And they would undergo attrition. Sorry, the combat units that were being carried by the fleet will undergo attrition. So let's say Krateros right now only has 2 units. And so how attrition works, let's go over that. You roll a die and you add it to the number of units you have. If it's more than 6, then you lose a unit. If it's exactly 6 and you have an elephant unit, you lose an elephant unit. So let's just roll this die. It's a 4. 4 plus 2 is equal to 6. See, there's 2 units with Krateros, and there's a 4 on the dice. That's 6. If Krateros had elephants, one of them would be lost, but he does not, so he does not suffer attrition. But his fleets would be dispersed, and so they would no longer be available for the rest of the turn to help you engage in a naval movement. Now, you don't have to commit all of your fleets, so he could commit 1 fleet and leave 1 behind if he wanted to, if he didn't want to risk everything. So that's how naval movement works. If it succeeds, obviously you just move across on these lines on the water, and you can keep moving. However, you cannot move, cross the water, and then keep moving on land. You can move on land before you move on water. Let's say he started here. He can move to this place and then go over there. But you can't move on land, move over the water, and then move on land again. That's not allowed. So again, naval movement can be uh, good, but it can also be risky. I mean, you don't want your army to get stuck on an island without any fleets to help it get away. So it can be very risky as well. All right, well, what about a land battle? So down here, I've kind of set up a land battle. Let's say Perdiccas attacks. Um, let's just put him right here. Perdiccas is attacking Ptolemaeus. And so you look at their command rating is actually the same, three and three. But you look at their player cards to see what kind of units they have with them. So Ptolemaeus, right now he has two loyal Macedonians, two royal Macedonians, that's the one with the purple stripe, and then two mercenaries. And then Perdiccas has four royal, two loyal Macedonians, and two elephants. So um, this is going to be interesting. Now, there are also TK cards that can affect land battles, and so you can play those at this moment. But again, we're going to kind of skip that for now. Uh, then you see if there are any royal combat units, and there in fact are. So there's four for Perdiccas and two for Ptolemaeus. And so what you then do is you determine each side's prestige. And prestige is equal to your legitimacy of your team plus the popularity of the general who is commanding the army. So it's popularity plus legitimacy. And so uh, if you look at Ptolemaeus, he has +2 popularity. So he's going to add 2. That's what this pink P means down here. It's popularity. But his legitimacy is going to be lower because Perdiccas starts with a certain amount of legitimacy based on his controlling Babylon. And he also has one legitimacy to start with because he was kind of second in command in the kingdom when Alexander died. And so he was seen as more legitimate. Um, so the legitimacy track is up here. Green is all the way up at 9. So you'd add 9. And right now he doesn't have any popularity. So it would just be 9. Green is all the way down at 3, but then you would add his popularity, which is 2, so that becomes 5. But the point is, Perdiccas still has higher prestige because his legitimacy is so high. So what that means is that these two units in Ptolemaeus' army, I'm just going to move these cards closer. These two units in Ptolemaeus' army are not going to take place in the battle. The royal units do not take place in the battle if they're fighting someone with higher um, uh, prestige. And so Perdiccas, so they just sit out. So I'm just going to take them off of the card for a second, and I'm going to put them in the middle because they will join whichever side wins the battle. They'll go with that person. So then what you do is you calculate who owns the province where the battle is taking place. Now I set it up in an empty province. So that would be nothing, nobody. But let's say that Green occupied this province, which is called Palestine. They would get 2 battle strength, combat strength. Okay, so you add 2 if you control the local province that you're fighting in. So it's kind of a defensive bonus a little bit. Then you calculate the battle strength. And so the battle strength is this number in parentheses, right? The number on the left side is how many units it represents. The number on the right side is the battle combat strength or battle strength. So you can see here 4 8 12 for Perdiccas. And then the elephants are kind of interesting. They're different. They have a variable uh, uh, combat strength, so that you don't always know exactly how much they're going to contribute to your side. What you do is you roll the elephant die once for each participating elephant combat unit. So there's 2 of them, so you need to roll 2 elephant die, and the number of elephant symbols on that roll is the combat strength of that elephant during this battle. So, um, okay, where I thought the elephant die. here they are. So I'm going to roll this twice. Ooh, 0. So sometimes there's 0 and 3. So um, so the total is 3. So now we go back to the battle. I had 4, 8, 12 plus 3 is 15. So there's 15 on the side of Perdiccas, and there's 4, 6 on the side of Ptolemaeus. So he's certainly going to lose. Um, so what you do then is you're going to roll, you guessed it, you're going to roll a die and uh, determine who has a higher total strength. Both sides roll one die and add the die roll to their battle strength. If you have more battle strength than the opponent, you win the battle. So let's move this over here and roll it. Ooh, it's a 6. Okay, so it's 6 plus 6 is 12. It's still not going to be enough. Okay, so that one is a 1. It's still not enough. Perdiccas is going to win. Now, in an actual game, Ptolemaeus would have done something called withdraw, which is where you move backwards when someone enters your space, because he would not have risked battle in this situation. But so Perdiccas wins though in this scenario. If it's a draw though, both armies suffer attrition, and the attacker must retreat. If it's a defeat, then both armies suffer attrition, and then the defeated army loses half of their combat units. So I'm going to roll this for attrition. If you remember, you take this and you add it to the number of units. So there's definitely going to be attrition, and I'm going to take attrition there. So I move that down from 2 to 1. I lost 1 unit. This guy also rolls for attrition. 5. 5 plus, so he's going to lose another unit. This guy's going to go down. And then he loses half of his remaining units rounded up. So he has to lose. This guy is going to die, and this one goes down to 1. And then this unit is placed in the dispersed box, um, along with the general, unless the general is killed. So you um, if he rolls a 1, he dies. So he does not die. So Ptolemaeus now is also dispersed. So he goes. You would put him in the dispersed box with the unit that was dispersed. And then Perdiccas is now here by himself. And so he won the battle. Um, and so that's how a land battle takes place. Then these royals, so that's the last step of it. These royals were sitting out because they didn't want to engage Perdiccas because Perdiccas had more prestige. So now that Perdiccas has won the battle, he takes those and goes back to wherever he was. And all of his movement is lost, though, so he can no longer move from there. Okay, so that is a land battle. Basically, not all of them are as complicated because most of them don't involve elephants and most of them don't involve royals. If it's just 2 units with mercenaries or even loyal Macedonians, it's a lot simpler. You just roll a die, add it to your battle strength, and that becomes your strength for that battle. Whoever loses has to undergo attrition, or sorry, both sides undergo attrition if someone loses, and then the defeated side also loses half of their units. All right, so now let's do a siege. That's the last thing we're going to do here. Let's say that Perdiccas keeps moving until he gets to, what is this, Memphis, I believe? Yeah, Memphis. He's at Memphis, and so he's here, and he has to roll for a siege. It takes 1 movement point to conduct a siege, and you have to have at least 1 combat unit in your army. So he obviously has a lot of combat units in his army, so that's not a concern. And so what you do is you to actually engage in the siege, you roll a die and you add the commanding general's battle rating. So that would be 3 for Perdiccas. And if the total is more than 6, you add a siege point. So let's just roll this. We need a 4 or more. Okay, it's not. It's exactly 6, so it's not more than 6. If a siege point was added, both sides would suffer attrition. So it is possible to have units inside a city while it's being besieged. That's not the case here. But then the attacker would have to undergo attrition. And so you would roll this again. 4 plus, and remember, it has to be greater than 7 for him to lose anything. If it's equal to 7 or equal to 6, so greater than 6 for him to lose anything. If it's equal to 6, he loses an elephant. So he is going to have to lose something. So we're going to take that out. And eventually we get its way over back to the stock of other combat units. But so he failed. But now he's got another siege point, or sorry, another movement point. Um, but you cannot siege more than once. So, but let's say it came around again, everyone else took their turn, and now, we're back, and it's now the green player's turn again. Let's say he rolls, and let's hope he get. Okay, so this time he got a 6, so he would get a siege point, and you would find them and take one and put it right beside uh, the city. Actually, on this city, it has a +1, which means you add 1 to any besieging roll. So actually, it's easier to besiege this city. Um, and so when a large city requires 3 siege points. So you can actually, if you got another siege point, that would go up to 2. You would flip it to the backside, and it has a 2 on it. So this means you have 2 siege points. And then if you get 3 siege points, that can go away because you've now taken this city. So you would then uh, flip this to the green color, and um, that would be you would take control of that city. If there were any units hiding out in the city, they either fight to the end or they uh, don't, or they surrender. If so, you roll a die and you add the number of units in the city. If the total is more than 6, so 7 or higher, the besieged units surrender. So if they do that, half of the besieged units join the besieger, rounded down, and then the rest are placed in the dispersed box. Um, uh, oh, sorry, they join the besieger and are placed in the dispersed box, but the other half are just simply destroyed. Generals never switch sides, so a general will always be dispersed. If the besieging army does not surrender, they are all destroyed. So if you don't get higher than a 6, then they fight to the end and they're dead. So that's a little bit of how sieges work, land battles, land movement, and naval movement.